Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for the Pegasus Edge 20. These are our weekly 20-minute trainings. We do our best to keep each training 20 minutes or less to keep you updated with new sales tips, sales ideas, or product knowledge to get you through the rest of the year. Today, we're going to be speaking about the discovery questions that uncover real client needs. This is really focused on opening up. So if you were on our last week's webinar, which was 10 habits of highly successful producers, one of the topics was send an agenda, right? Listen more. Ask those open-ended questions, look for cross-selling opportunities. And that's really what we're doing today. When we're sitting with a client during that first initial appointment, or we're just talking to them, even before that appointment is set and we're getting a fill out, we really should have a good grasp of what they're searching for. Because even if we come in having kind of a preconceived notion of, well, this is kind of what we talked about, maybe we talked about insurance or they're losing benefits, this doesn't really open up anything else. So I'll give you a quick example. I received a call from a friend of mine, and she told me, hey, I have a referral for you. She's a little bit older. She's leaving her job right now, and she's losing all benefits. So she's looking for just some coverage. And I started asking some questions just for my friend. Hey, well, first off, how old is she? And she let me know she's 65 years old, just turned 65. And I said, well, great. Does she have her Medicare taken care of? Is she going to go on Cobra? What is her budget? Does she have everything prepped for long-term care? If she got onto Medicare, what plan did she get into? What are the, expenses that she has? Does she understand everything that she needs to get into? And she says, well, I don't know. I know she signed up for Medicare, but not much for that. So very quickly, I am now setting up a call with the client where now I get to ask these discovery questions, right? We want to do a solid plan for a consumer as we're moving forward as their kind of financial professional, right? Their insurance professional. And I want to try and hit as many topics to make sure everything is set up. But I also want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything on the table or having another agent coming in behind me because I want to be that person, right? I want to be that person that when they think insurance of any kind, that they're going to pick up and call. Or if they're talking to somebody, I'm going to be that person that they're going to refer. So let's get into this. Now, as always, on the top left, if you have any questions, go ahead and click on the question button for comments or questions. Send them in to us. We're going to go ahead and answer it at the end of the presentation. After everything's said and done, we'll go ahead and reach out to you and have that discussion. So, you know, I want to really push back on the assumption that people that have the most product knowledge are the best people in the deal. I've gone to many conventions and talked to many highly successful agents where they didn't know everything about the product. Yet they are selling 6 or 7 figures worth of commissions every single year. Listen, the most knowledgeable agent in the room is not always the top producer. It's the one who, first off, has that system, has that habit that we talked about last week, but it's also the one that asks the best questions. Okay? Listen, clients will only buy from people that they trust, right? Not from the people that know the most. First off, they need to like you, they need to trust you, and you have to have a decent product. You have to know what you're talking about. So it's almost the trifecta. But I will tell you the number one mistake that I see a lot of new agents make when they come into the business is, hey, I really want to learn everything before I go out and, prospect or sell my first case. And oftentimes we go into almost this, analysis paralysis from the agent, and they never actually get out prospecting because they just want to know more and more and more. It's almost like that retirement cartoon that I've always shown in the past, right? It's not about building a fence and prepping the soil. It's about getting started to make your garden grow, to make your business grow. Now, without discovery, any recommendation that you are going to make probably going to just be a total guess or something that you've already come into the home prepared to sell. So I know a lot of agents that only sell term, and it's because they never bring anything else up. And oftentimes it's because they have a preconceived, notion that this is going to be what my client can afford. As JD has always told us, don't make that decision for your client. Let that client make the decision for themselves. And when you're sitting down with a client for that first initial meeting or prospecting or heck, even a review, as you're asking these questions and making sure there's nothing that's changed kind of throughout the life, the discovery prevents any objections from showing up later on down the line during your presentation, or it helps you kind of overcome them. So, how often do you walk out of an appointment knowing more about the client or knowing more about how well you explain the product? Most will admit that it's probably the second option. Oh, I did a good job. I knew everything I was talking about. But we don't even know if that client fully fit the client's need or if it was even the right product for the client. I got to tell you, even myself, I've often made the mistake and gone with, hey, well, the client was talking term and they had this budget and it was just an easy sell, so we walk away with it. Only to find out later, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, when I'm kind of having that conversation back with the client, oh, well, I already bought this plan, or hey, this is what I got into. Or that client reaches out to me asking some questions. That's the best case scenario. Hey, I was talking to a guy about an annuity, or hey, somebody came to me with, something called an IUL, and it looks pretty good. Is this something that we should be aware of? We shouldn't have left that on the table. I should have pushed further. But where I thought, hey, this was an easy product, an easy client, they already knew what they want, instead of pressing the client and trying to get down to the bottom or doing my annual review, having that discovery discussion, now they're coming back to me asking me these questions. And I feel like I lost something along the way. So what we need to do is, the 80/20 rule. And what the 80/20 rule of any sale says is the client talks 80% of the time and the agent talks 20%, right? We need to listen more than we speak. We can't be dominating the conversation because at the end of it, and JD did one, I think, on the women's market, they want to go with the person, the advisor that they feel that hears them, that understands what their options are. So even if you switch this to the 50/50 rule or the 60/40 rule, it's fine, but you need to kind of calm down and have the client explain a little bit more and follow the agenda that you're building in that 10 habits piece that we talked last week. So let's just jump right into the 6 core questions. The first one, who depends on your income today? What we want to do is really have that client envision, well, who would I leave money to? Is it my wife? Is it my children? Is it my estate to trust? Who depends on my income, right? We want to put that into to their mind immediately. Who would you choose as your beneficiary? Now, for most people, it's going to be their spouse, and I love when the spouse is sitting right there. Well, it's going to be my wife. And you turn over and, yeah, Mrs. Client, who would you choose as your beneficiary? Well, it would be my husband. I want them to get to start thinking about, well, who is this benefiting? Not what the bill is. Okay? If something were to happen to you tomorrow, what would change for Mrs. Spouse? Have them start thinking, well, the reason that we're sitting here is for life insurance, but what is the benefit of life insurance? It's not the policy, it's the money, it's that continuance of life. I've often told a story about, my daughter who asked, what we did. And when I started naming off all of the benefits, staying in the same house, staying in the same school, not having to worry about, where the next meal is coming from or any of that, she thought, well, why doesn't everybody buy it? This is exactly what we're talking about. What would change for your family if something were to happen to you tomorrow? Get them starting to envision that. If they already have coverage, the first next question I'm going to ask is, well, what's working with your current coverage? What's not? If it's an employer plan, I want them to really tell me, well, I don't pay anything for it. Or, well, I do pay something for it, but it's tied to my work. I really want to deep dive in because ultimately, unless it's a great policy or something that really shouldn't be replaced, I'm going to try and add that into the current plan. If it's an old term plan or if it's, a smaller final expense, I want to add that into the current plan. So, the beneficiary is only making one call, filing one claim, dealing with one person, and that person is going to be me and the carrier. How do you picture what your retirement will look like in the future? So, this is another, question. I want them to start thinking about the future. What does my retirement look like in the future? And then finally, before I even get into any products, and this can even be your opening question as well, but have you seen or read anything about product type? This term life, the IUL, life insurance, annuities, Medicare, that you have any questions about? And I do this mainly more for, millennials, Gen Z, heck, even, the boomer generation. And that's going to be because TikTok and Facebook and Instagram are really out there and promoting stuff. I was talking with a client once and he turned around and he said, well, I heard this, and we were talking about term, and he brings up IUL out of the blue, right? Oh, I heard this about IUL. Is that true? And we got into the conversation and we started discussing if an IUL was the appropriate product or should be added in. Now, we ended up selling some term policies, we sold some annuities, and now we're looking into selling a special needs planning, right? They're looking into special needs trusts. They had some circumstances changes and we're moving into it. But I want to be able to either dispel popular notions, get into a conversation, or have that discussion around the product type to make sure that it's fitting with them. If you walk into a appointment and it's about life insurance and all of a sudden you just start spouting off the wonders of IUL, but yet they've been caught into some, weird algorithm where the people are just, harping against it, you're going to fight an uphill battle and they may all of a sudden just lose confidence where maybe you would have had that term sell. You going in with a specific product type from the very beginning is now going to cost you that sale. Again, we want to find out what is happening, how this product and this presentation is going to fit and meet the goals of our client's life. Now, as you're asking these questions, I need you to start thinking about going deeper, right? Again, we want to open up, and people start opening up, especially when they start talking about themselves, right? Now, I mean, every icebreaker that you ever see out there is don't talk about yourself. Have the other person start talking about themselves. People love to talk about themselves, especially as you get them going. They may be shy at first, but once you open up, or even if you're in a couple situation, you have the husband and wife there, the wife may add something, the husband's going to add something. Keep that conversation rolling. So let's say the client gives you kind of a very brief answer. Well, I want to retire at 65. Well, let's go deeper than that. Well, what does retirement at 65 look like for you? Or what are you doing now to reach that retirement goal of 65? Are you just planning on Social Security? Are you saving in a 401k? What are you doing? Now, if something delayed that, would that worry you most? Or what if you got sick before you got to 65 and you can no longer save? How would you respond? How would you plan for that? Now, as we're asking these questions, we're commonly tying them into themes. Well, what if I get sick before I reach 65? That's a great question. With an IUL, we can set up a waiver of specified premium. We have living benefits that are built in. We could be talking about long-term care. If they already have been saving for retirement, I'm going to ask, well, do you have any old 401ks, TSPs, 403bs from previous employers that you're not actively monitoring? Let's see if we can move that into an annuity conversation. Let's talk about disability. What if you do get sick? How are you going to continue to bring in the income? So, really, what we want to do is instead of reaching that surface, I want to retire at 65 and saying, great, let me show you how you can. Well, let's get into, that gold standard. Let's start moving down a little bit deeper and just asking questions about that answer and see if we can find some additional opportunities or ways that we can actually help that family meet the goal. Now, what not to ask. When you're sitting with a client, we don't want to sound salesy. So, phrases like, well, what keeps you up at night? Or how much can you afford? Or what fits into your monthly budget? Or do you have life insurance? Right? Do you have life insurance? No. Where's that going to go? Why not? Is that really your final follow-up question? How much can you afford? Or they're going to tell you the least amount possible, right? Nobody wants to have to pay more into a plan than they think that they need to. What keeps you up at night? Sounds super salesy. Sounds almost like a script. How about you replace some of these with what financial decisions are you working through right now? Have you seen or read anything about blah that you have questions about? Again, going back to one of the six common questions. Let's start that dialogue on those open-ended questions and really build into a conversation versus just a sales script. Always listen for the hidden yeses during these conversations. And what do I mean about the hidden yes? A hidden yes are signals that are going to point you towards the right product. Okay? Oftentimes, as a client is talking, as they're sitting down with you, they're almost telling you exactly what they need or what they want. Okay, so if they're sitting there saying we instead of I, and you're talking to them alone, you know that they're thinking of the spouse, that the spouse is involved. If they start talking about an aging parent or grandparent, hey, my mom got sick, my dad got sick, right? As you're talking about those family ties, well, maybe they're thinking about legacy planning or they're afraid that the same thing is going to happen to them. Same if they talk about, my friend just got sick. Let's think about LTC interest, especially as you're older. Something happened at the church, something happened in the community, something happened to a neighbor. Maybe they reference a recent inheritance or a sale. Recently, JD and I were on a phone call, and the client turned around and said, hey, we're selling a house. We're going to have so much profit. We need to replace X amount of income. What can we do? And so we got into that conversation. And as we started diving deeper into the conversation, the wife chimes in and says, well, we have 5 other rental properties, and we've been thinking about selling those too. What can we do? So all of a sudden, we're going from a pretty good sale and into an annuity to an amazing sale that's going to last, a period of time. All right. So you can't sell 5 properties in 30 days. This is going to be a lifelong client that we can actually sit with and work with and help with. And in fact, today I just sent over the written plan and we're scheduling the actual review with them. But diving deeper and asking those questions makes number one, them feel more comfortable with you. And again, opens up the possibility for a hidden yes, another product, another opportunity for you to work with that client. Now, silence is often eerie, right? We love to talk, or you might be super nervous or amped up, or you have that energy as you're going in, right? You have that anxiety, that sales anxiety. I still get that sales anxiety to this day when I sit down with a new client. I never take it for granted. And sometimes when we ask a question, we don't give the client time to actually respond. We immediately fill the silence. Just wait. Give them time to respond. Just look at there. It's almost like that game, right? Who starts talking first, right? Sometimes when the client responds, that first answer is usually going to be polite, but that second answer is usually true. So when you ask a question, don't give it 1, 2, or 3 seconds. Give it a long 5 count to open it back up, to maybe explain a little bit more before you say anything at all. Again, we want that client to listen in. One of the things that I do here during phone calls, so if I'm having a call with a client, is I have a AI note-taking tool. And if you're curious, just ask me and I'll send it over. It's not very expensive, it's very affordable, but it records my calls and I can go back and ask it questions. But one of the neat little tools is it will tell me how much I spoke during that conversation, and it'll actually do it live. So while I'm sitting with a client, unless I'm reading some kind of a disclaimer or something like that, I can see, am I been talking 60% of the time? Have I been talking 80% of the time? Have I been talking 30% of the time? And what's really nice about that is it allows me to very quickly see if I've been taking up that conversation and I need to scale it down. So if we've been talking 5 minutes and it shows that I've been talking 80% of the time, I start scaling back and going back into my, agenda. Kind of reframing myself, letting them get caught up, trying to get to that 50-50, 60-40, hopefully an 80-20. But I really want that conversation to continue on. So, this week's challenge, right? We gave you the habits of last week. Hopefully, you're starting to work on that challenge. But I want you to use the 6 core questions with your next 3 appointments, or pick some of them. It doesn't even have to be all 6, it can be 2 or 3. Write your own. Track which questions opens up the best conversation. Or if you're already using open-ended questions, I think that's amazing. Send us your favorite question that you like to use to either open up a presentation, an appointment, or a review with your client, and we're going to share it with everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our 20 minutes is up. Please keep an eye out for our next calendar, so where we want to send out a few more trainings, and we'll see you next week. This is your host, Justin Moya with Pegasus. We really appreciate your time. You have a wonderful week.